I think we should be all set. I think, does it look like everybody's muted? Or Chris Ratty from the back, I think you'll be able to mute everybody once we get started, correct?
Bobby Celine isn't.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Bobby's not going to be with us probably.
Oh, it shows her up here, though.
She's
It
here.
does?
Oh, hi Bobby, how are you? I think we got everybody that we need, so again, as a reminder, just mute yourself. I think Chris Ratty will mute you if you're having trouble. So if you want to speak, either use the raised hand icon or unmute yourself as well. We'll go through roll call, and Amy will do that after Michael Burns introduces the meeting. So I'll stop talking. I'll let Michael announce the meeting.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Michael Burns, Chair of the Moorhead Economic Development Authority, and I call the meeting of May 18th, 2020 to order. Amy, would you read the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Members present today include Michael Burns, Chad Koda, Alex Kuzia, Zach Hiring, Pat Kovash, Jeff Schauman, Larry Seljevold, Deb White, Bobby Soline. Not present includes Nate Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda amendments. Does anyone have any amendments to offer?
None from staff.
Next item is the approval of the minutes. Please offer any commentary if you have some.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve. This is Deb White.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Thanks, Jeff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? I guess we'll take a roll call vote here again.
All right, Michael Burns,
Aye.
Chad Koda,
Aye.
Alex Cusa. Alex?
Aye, sorry.
Zach Hiring. Pat Kovash.
Aye.
Jeff Schauman.
Aye.
Larry Seljevold.
Aye.
Bobby Soline.
Aye.
And Deb White.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next item is citizens addressing the board. Amy, is there anyone on the call that may want to do so?
Not unrelated to items not on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, commissioners' reports.
I have a update from the MBA. Can you hear me, Derek?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you, Pat. Go ahead.
Okay. The Moorhead Business Association sharing updated city, state, and federal information on loans, grants, and guidelines. We're doing that on our MBA website and on for the community on our Facebook page. There's been a lot of information to get out, so it's been fairly busy for Sherry and Nick. We want to give a big shout out to Ben Lean. He's been really sending us a lot of information and communicating with the businesses from the state level. And then a huge shout out to Derek Lapointe and the downtown organization. I mean, what a great community to be a part of. We've got everybody pitching in and just really trying to help get that information out there to help our businesses weather this little storm we're in. So last week, the MBA, we had a Let's Talk Business meeting, and we had Senator Tina Smith and Brian McDonald from the SBA, and we had Ben Lean and Kent Deacon. A lot of good information in there. You know, a lot of the information, some of the information that the SBA gave us has already changed. And so this is going to be a moving target, and I really think that it really shows the value of what organizations like Downtown Moorhead and MBA that we can support our business leaders and keep getting that information out as it evolves. We're doing a promotion, eat local, shop local, buy local, drink local, enjoy local, support at a local business, support at the area where you live, work, and play. The MBA has been a leader for the weekly updates on the Moorhead local favorites, pickup, curbside, delivery options, and for all businesses. Also, we'd like to welcome Nick Lear, who is Sherry's second fiddle. And these two have really been getting out there. They've literally picked up the phone and called every member to try and find out if they have any concerns or if anything that we can share. And even at our last MBA meeting, I was surprised, but right through this, they signed up 4 new members. So, you know, this is a great time to show how we can galvanize our business community. We've got people that want to be a part of this because we can get that information out to them. The NBA golf tournament early bird team registration is until June 1st, and then that'll save you $50. And if you join before our July 15th at the Meadows Golf Course, we're going to have our 5th annual golf tournament. We just felt that it's important not to be canceling everything, and we're going to be out there. The Moorhead Proud 560 Ooh and Ah 4th of July celebration. It's the biggest event in Moorhead. This year it's going to have a few changes. We're not going to have it at MSUM. We're working on a location, and it looks like it's going to be somewhere where you're going to be able to watch it from Fargo and Moorhead. And it's going to be done in like a drive-in way where people can just sit in their cars and enjoy it. But we think that that is a really important event to have, to get people out and to give them an opportunity to go to something that we can all be a part of. And we're asking that so that everybody stays in their cars and watches the display or from their own front yard. And we're also working with some radio stations where they're going to have some music and going to coordinate it. So, you know, we're all in this together. It's been stressful. I really feel for our restaurant owners. I really think that the minute we get these places open, every one of us, we need to go out of our way to try and support these people. You know, I've been fortunate. I've been able to run with locked doors and maintain, but there's a lot of people. Swing Barrel Brewing is going to be opening up fairly quickly, and, you know, they're going to need some support. They got that beautiful place already, and then they locked the front door. So anyway, that's what I have from the MBA.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Lots of good news there. Item number 6 is the application on behalf of 12th and Main LLC for Renaissance Zone project. Justin Berg, is he present?
Yep, Justin should be on the line. Justin, do you just want to unmute yourself and just make sure we have you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Sounds good. And I'll introduce the item when you're ready to.
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead, Derek. Let's
Sounds-
just move into that.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, we have, obviously, in challenging times, we still have projects moving forward, which I think is a really good thing. We have low interest rates and projects that we were communicating with before the pandemic happened, and it's nice to see some projects still move forward. And this is a Renaissance Zone application on behalf of Justin Berg. This is 12th and Main LLC. The address is 1205 and 1213 Main Avenue, so on the corner of 12th and Main. This would be a brand new construction of a 33-unit, 4-story multifamily apartment complex that has enclosed and off-street parking. So the first level is parking, and levels 2 through 4 are residential. There's a mix of bedroom counts, as well as some green space that connects outside as well. We went through the process, obviously, through the Renaissance Zone application. We felt that this project met some of the goals and objectives, including high-quality housing, infill, safe streets and neighborhoods, a walkable district, as well as helping with our goal of 500 units in the next 5 years. The area is zoned commercial mixed use, which is MU3. That creates a flexible approach to land uses that enhances residential and commercial development. by encouraging a balance of mixed-use land uses. So it does meet all zoning based on what has been submitted so far. This project is roughly a little over $4 million, $4.1 million of investment, which equates to a cost per square foot of $159 per square foot. That compared to our Renaissance zone table that we have equates to a property tax exemption of 10 years. This project is moving forward. Like I said, if approved here today, or if recommended approval today, it will go to the City Council next week, Tuesday. And I know they'll start the permit application right away to begin construction this summer of 2020 with an anticipated completion of summer of 2021. So again, a really great project. This area obviously has a history in Moorhead, and it's nice to see some redevelopment on this site, and we appreciate their thoughtfulness and design approach. You'll see Amy has shared the screen. Hopefully you can see that. If you hadn't seen it in your packet, we did get a couple new images from the designer. And I should remind, for those that came online late, we do have an updated packet on the City of Moorhead's website, so feel free to go online and download that. But you'll see a breakdown, you'll see a nice rendering of the facility, a mix of the unit counts, the preliminary site plan. Again, just a well thought through project. We did have lots of conversations with this group too about commercial development in the project. I think Justin can kind of speak to that. I think that is kind of the challenging point with that we're seeing through this pandemic. But I know the way the building is designed, and Rhett Fisnisk has discussed it as well, if that demand comes out, they can use some of that first floor parking to kind of redesign and establish some commercial development. So again, a very well thought through project. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but maybe before we do that, let's see if Justin Berg has anything to say or anything that I've missed. So Justin, do you have anything you want to touch base on?
Yeah, just to add on the challenges we ran into, trying to get this to be a mixed-use project with some commercial activation on the main, a little bit of limited space with the lot size, and we did market for it, and we just really didn't have a lot of interest. And of course, when the pandemic hit, that was definitely a bigger challenge, and maybe it will evolve to that, but just kind of seeing right now, it just, the market didn't seem to bear it from the angles we tried to get that main floor activation. But at the same time, hopefully it's a step in progress for the neighborhood and in alignment with the Renaissance zone.
Thanks, Justin. With that, I don't know if any of the commissioners have a hand raised icon, Amy, or if anybody has anything they want to add, feel free to oh, there is one.
Deb
Okay.
White does have her hand up.
Yep,
And Jeff Schauman.
So why don't we go, Councilmember White, do you want to start? And then we'll go to Jeff.
Sure. Thank you. And actually, the first question I had, you kind of touched on that, is I was, interested to hear if there was some possibility for for adding some commercial space on the first floor, but understand if it doesn't look like that would be a good solution. The other issues, we're just thinking about common concerns that come up with adjoining neighborhoods, and I think that this project really addresses those, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, that, one being the off-street parking, increase in off-street parking, and of course, using that entire first floor for parking allows you to add to parking without increasing the footprint. And then the other issue being whether you have, a large building that kind of goes up against a single family home neighborhood. And if I'm correct, first of all, you've got the parking lot behind, and then it looks like on the map, if I'm sure, that area to the southeast, that's already a multi-family apartment building, correct? And so there really are no single family homes right in the close proximity, correct?
Yeah, the only home would be the adjacent one to the east on Main Avenue. You have two homes that are left on the block.
And that's sort of transitioning right now.
We did try to make an acquisition there, and it, for where they were at, it just didn't work in the project, but yeah, it would have been ideal to get that fourth lot as well, just for the sake of, for your concerns, you know, we explored it. But
Yeah, so it really does seem like it fits well and without, you know, great addition to Maine without detrimentally impacting the neighborhood behind it.
Thanks,
yeah,
Councilmember
thank you.
White.
We hope,
Jeff is next.
Member Schauman, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you.
Jeff, we're having a hard time hearing you. Can you maybe try?
He muted himself now.
Okay, Jeff, maybe we'll try to reconnect you there. I think, and feel free to maybe submit your question in the chat box to Amy, and we can maybe try to answer it too. We'll give you some time on that. And I think Assistant City Manager Molly had his hand up too. Dan, did you have anything to say?
I do have a comment. I see, maybe I remember comment. Like I'm I just want to comment more than anything. Just lift up something to reflect some of that in terms of it is one of our own public school system, graduated, and has been really reflecting some of the great kind of what I would call creative smart growth investment. Wanted to thank you. Owned in our growth with other and improving better in the downtown. And Justin, about vision and his group person. What motivates you to make us more?
Dan, I think you're breaking up a little bit there. I don't know if anybody else could hear that or not. Or Justin, could you hear anything on that?
no, it was pretty cutting in and out.
Dan, I think you were saying it's a great project, right?
Amen, yes.
Jeff, are you back on?
I am by call. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you better, Jeff.
Great. Well, I apologize that didn't come through earlier, the joys of technology. Well, I was just going to say thank you for bringing the project forward. Certainly looks like it'd be a great improvement in that area, and shows the continued investment of the private sector in downtown Moorhead area. I did want to ask one question, and it's maybe for Mr. Molly. Given the mixed-use designation, are there certain zoning hurdles that'll need to be overcome? And not that it's certainly not worthwhile, but just wondering procedurally, have the entitlements been dealt with? And if so, just want to make sure before we start dealing with financial commitment kind of discussions.
Yeah, and Jeff, I can maybe answer it. And you're right, the zoning district is a commercial mixed-use MU3 zoning district, but it does allow for residential development separately, so it doesn't require a mixed use. It obviously encourages it, but it doesn't necessarily require it. So they do have the ability by right to build an apartment complex. So. But certainly appreciate that question, and I know we've had a pre-development meeting with this group too about a week and a half ago. We had members of the planning department, engineering, economic development, and other city leadership just to kind of go through any questions and preliminary design concerns that may come up through a zoning perspective. And at this point in time, there were no major things that stood out as a concern. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Amy, is there anybody else that has their hand raised?
No.
Any further questions for those that are on the call? Anybody have anything they want to add? Okay, hearing none, I'll pass it back to Chair Burns.
Thanks, Derek. Do we hear a motion to approve this project as presented?
I move to approve Deb White.
Second, Pat Kovash.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please, Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael Burns,
Yes?
Chad Koda,
Yes.
Alex Cusa. Alex?
Yes.
Thank you. Zach Hiring,
Yes.
Pat Kovash,
Yes.
Jeff Schauman,
Yes.
Larry Seljevold,
Yes.
Bobby Soline,
Yes.
and Deb White.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Motion's carried. Next item is number 7, the recommendation of the Makara Development Control Board for new and expanding businesses. Derek, you can take this on here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, the next 2 items are, as a reminder, we have the Makara Review Board. This is a covenants board that reviews any projects that go out in our industrial park. And we've had some conversations in the past, and maybe before we get into it, I just want to touch on this. We've had conversations in the past about what the city's role, future role is in that Makara Review Board, because certainly we have land that the city owns, but now there's a majority of the ownership in the park is established and privately held. And so some of these requests, like you have on this first one, is from one of our existing users, which is Resco, and they are looking at adding a outside storage area, essentially squaring off the concrete pad parallel to the street. A new area would be fenced. So again, it's an existing use to an already existing facility. We talked about it as a Makara Review Board, and for those who are part of it, feel free to interject on the conversation that was had, but we felt that this was zoned by right, met the covenants. We want to support an existing business that's out there. You'll see the image that is in your packet that just kind of shows where the expansion is, but to the review board, this was passed unanimously to recommend approval to the EDA here today. So I don't know if there's anybody from that meeting, Jeff, or anybody else that wants to add anything, but a pretty straightforward request that this board felt it should be recommended approval to the EDA.
Yeah, I can just speak to the board's discussion. Jeff Schauman here. You know, certainly this is something, as noted, that is allowed by right, and the board unanimously, thought that it was appropriate to recommend and to ultimately approve here at EDA to allow those people to improve their property.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions from the group? We'd be happy to try to answer them. Any questions? Any hands raised, Amy?
I'm on the wrong screen, sorry.
Nope, that's all right. Anybody have any questions or comments? Again, we're excited to see another business expand their operations in the industrial park, so I think that's the positive takeaway from it. With that, if I don't hear anything, I'll maybe pass it back to Chair Burns for a motion.
Thank you, Derek. Is there a motion to approve this project?
So moved.
I move.
A second?
Pat Kovash is first and Jeff Schauman second. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael Burns,
Yes?
Chad Koda,
Yes.
Alex Cusa.
Yes.
Thank you. Zach Hiring,
Yes.
Pat Kovash,
Yes.
Jeff Schauman,
Yes.
Larry Seljevold,
Yes.
Bobby Soline,
Yes.
Deb White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, 7B, ISR Homes. Derek, you want to fill us in on that?
Absolutely. Hey, another really great project for our industrial park. This was one that we had mentioned before in the past. This is a new development, new construction by ISR Homes. Dan Perro is the owner. This is at 4218 29th Avenue South. And for a visual, this is the farthest eastern lot along I-94 and our industrial park. So those lots have sat there for a number of years. We knew this project was obviously coming forward, and this will be the first one to kind of break ground to really establish some new development along that track. This is, again, just a request of the project details. So the review board, the Makara Review Board, looks at the project as it relates to the covenant. And it's a new construction project, about a little over 12,000 square feet, which would include a large showroom, 2 conference rooms, 3 offices, multiple storage rooms, etc. This would be his home operation for his home building company. The anticipated construction start would be June 2020 and be completed by December 2020. Again, zoned by right. It's a really nice looking project that you'll see from some of the images that Mr. Perro has submitted. I think it'll look great along the interstate, and as well, this project was unanimously approved by the Makara Review Board, recommending approval to the EDA. With that, I'll again pass it maybe first to the members of the Makara Review Board if you have anything to add, and then would be happy to answer any of your questions as well. Maybe the last thing I should mention, this project will have an application, a commercial industrial property tax exemption application. We'll be submitting one soon, and we'll be having that heard before the City Council at a future meeting. As a reminder, the commercial industrial property tax incentives, we alert the EDA, but that's not a recommending body to the commercial industrial property tax incentives. So that will be going right to the City Council once we have that application. With that, I'll open it up to some of the members of the Makara group and then answer any questions. Thank you.
Derek?
Yep.
Just quickly, I'm on the Makara Review Board here. You know, we did approve this project. It's a really nice looking project. There was one little caveat in there where they did have one garage door that was facing the interstate, which if it was part of the covenants or not, and the Makara Review Board, I think the majority of us agreed that having that one door facing that way, if it helps the operational function of their building, that would be something that we would live with.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, I think Amy had some follow-up on that too, and I'm glad you reminded us. So Amy, go ahead and maybe give a follow-up to that.
Thank you, Derek. Yeah, I did speak with the city planner, and she will be reviewing that and basically requiring some additional type of landscaping to go with that overhead door. But if you're looking down the corridor, there are a number of different examples where there is an overhead door showing from the I-94 corridor, so we don't feel that there will be any issue with this project.
Okay. Any further comment? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, Deb White.
Thank you.
Who made the first?
Who made the first?
I did.
Pat Kovash? Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's take the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Burns?
Yes.
Chad Koda?
Yes.
Alex Cusa?
Yes.
Zach Hiring?
Yes.
Pat Kovash?
Yes.
Jeff Schauman?
Yes.
Larry Seljevold?
Yes.
Bobby Soline?
Yes.
Deb White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. On to the director's report, Derek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for those that haven't had a chance, and I apologize for not having this ready for when the packet went out, but we do have the economic development report posted online. So if you download that, you will see a written report that I did put together. It was hard to write because there's been so much going on over the last couple months. And I'm going to go a little bit off script for those that have it up, because I think it's just important just to speak of what we've been doing. We were talking a little bit with Pat Kovash before the meeting started, and I've obviously talked to a number of different business owners in the community. It's obviously very challenging times for our businesses. It's been hard to track the information as it just has changed so rapidly. The information, whether it's coming out of the federal government, the SBA, the state, or locally, Business Association, myself, and obviously city staff, Amy Thorpe, and others, we take pride in just trying to keep up to date with so much of that stuff and make sure our businesses are in the know of at least what's available to them. You know, I think some of the challenges that are out there, and I'll just speak to maybe one specifically, is we have a lot of resources out to folks that have similar titles. And I'll just say, for example, the Minnesota Deed has a small business emergency loan program. It's got $30 million from the state of Minnesota in it. We have $500,000 that West Central Initiative manages for our region, their service territory. And many of the businesses that Sherry and I have spoken with had been confused in thinking that was the SBA injury disaster loan that was out there. So a lot of them had applied for that, maybe didn't get feedback on it, and ultimately decided not to apply or just didn't know that program existed. So we have funds and resources that are out there for folks that we're just not having people apply for, which is frustrating obviously for us, but I think more frustrating for those individuals that are truly struggling. Their businesses are struggling. They've been closed through an executive order, and resources are there. And Sherry again and I are trying our best to get that information out to folks to really help them. You know, we've had a lot of comments too about business closures. I will say, and I can speak for Sherry in this as well, because I just spoke to her before the meeting started. Between her and I, we have not heard from one business that says we are permanently closing our doors. So we hope that trend continues, but we know that this pandemic, obviously what we're dealing with the closures is one part of the issue. The challenge is consumer confidence as we get out of the pandemic. You know, how are we going to be able to manage customers? You know, are people going to feel safe to go to restaurants, to go to retail, to go to entertainment venues? You know, these are all things that we're trying to kind of figure out, and it's truly an unknown. I think the big takeaway that I have for these folks that are reopening, and I would encourage many of them to utilize their networks, similar networks that are across the state or across the country that are reopening, and how they're trying to practice safe operations. The state of Minnesota is requiring a COVID-19 business preparedness plan for those businesses that are reopening. There are templates out there from the Department of Employment and Economic Development as well as Labor, but you have to look at your own situation to figure out what's best for you. Those plans aren't required to be submitted to the state for review, but certainly if there's an outbreak or complaints, it'll probably be one of the first places the state looks for, is saying, hey, where is your plan, and how have you kind of prepared for dealing with these situations? So it's again, oh, is there a question? Okay, and again, it's going to go on for a while. We know that, but how do we help our businesses now and really support them? But how do we support them for the future too? So a lot of coordinated effort. I'll say this too. We've had some great regional support and great state support. I'll say too, the state of Minnesota Chamber of Commerce has been one of our biggest resources, whether it's to Sherry or myself or to the city. We took a long time, not really a long time, we talked about it early on when there were so many different similar industries that were putting out their own COVID-19 response pages online or on social media. And for us, we felt it was most important to link those resources directly to the source of the information. So whether it was the state, and the big one was the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. They had, 10 different staff people working on that every day. And that's just something that we can't maintain that quickly. We're obviously taking business calls. It doesn't mean that we don't think it's important. We just knew that in the midst of taking phone calls and trying to update a website, when we knew that the state of Minnesota Chamber of Commerce put together a business toolkit that had surveys, that had links to all different sorts of things, we kind of took a consolidated effort that the city, the Downtown Moorhead Inc. group, and the MBA really kind of band together to kind of get that information out. As it relates to other conversations, I've started including the EDA members on all my notes that I take from a statewide conference call that I have. It's now weekly. It was every day for a good chunk of time. You are a part of a group of about 50 community leaders and business leaders that get that email. I hope it's helpful because it's straight, again, from the source of the information. And I'll continue to update folks as we get information. One last thing is we obviously know today is the end of the stay-at-home order, or late last night, 11:59 last night was the end of the stay-at-home order in Minnesota. Today marks the start of the Stay Safe Minnesota order. That obviously has a whole list of new material and information to read, so we're constantly looking into that. We've had a lot of calls of, can our business open or not open? We're recommending, you certainly can ask us the question, but we're not the ultimate determination of, yes, you can open, or no, you can't. We recommend that, you contact the state. The state has been answering questions on their critical industries list within 24 hours. And again, look at having that business preparedness plan. We are hearing from businesses that are still closed, so bars, restaurants, not retailers, but salons, barbershops, and gyms. For those that are still closed, and we're hearing that they will be allowed to reopen on June 1st, there will be an announcement. We're told we will have an announcement on Wednesday that will give guidance to those industries of what reopening can look like to them. And I think that's one of the biggest frustrations that we hear from folks is the transparency, right? They just want to be able to prepare. They just want to know. And hopefully that gives time for these folks to kind of ramp up their operations, create promotion materials, et cetera. Work with their staff. That's a whole other aspect that we didn't really touch on, but work with their staff to be able to make sure they have safe operations. And hopefully June 1st, we can start seeing a little bit of a dial up in the business activity. But again, a lot of information. I kind of just went off script there. You can see some of the other things that we've been doing, but I think it was just important just to speak to all of you of what we're doing. I thank Amy, I thank Sherry, and other city staff, city leadership, business leadership. We have businesses stepping up around the clock, doing really great things for our community. So just a lot of thanks for all those that are in touch with this and working so closely with it. And I think it was mentioned earlier, we are in this together. We're going to get through it together. And again, we're trying to get that information out to folks so that we can really help them. So with that, I'll stop. I'll answer any of your questions. I hope some of you have some questions or comments. Be glad to share what we're doing and how we can help.
Deb White has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Councilmember White.
Thanks. Actually, Derek, I just wanted to take a minute to thank you and the other staff because, you mentioned all the reports that you're sending us, and it's been invaluable, just the way you've kept us all in the loop and the way you're connecting with the business community. And I know Pat mentioned this before, but beyond that, just, looking at making sure that we are doing everything that we can to help our businesses here in Moorhead. I also see how much you're doing to make sure we're continuing to move ahead and don't lose the momentum for the great growth that we saw before. And, you know, I think back to our meeting recently where we looked at the next phase of our downtown development plan, and it was this, you know, ray of sunshine among all of the frustrating things that are happening right now. And so I do feel confident that as difficult as things are right now, there's brighter days ahead, and we will continue to move ahead, and a lot of it has to do with our good staff and our good partners in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. I think you bring up a really valuable point, if you don't mind me adding, and I forgot to mention, but we do have a lot of businesses, whether it's Justin Berg here today and his group bringing forward a brand new project. We have other new projects that we'll be happy to announce soon. But the other thing was a lot of businesses that were, you know, forced to close and took advantage of low interest rates and did a lot of internal renovations. Those that had the reserves and could do it took that time that really you don't really have very much, but did some improvements inside their own spaces. So it is tough to say there are things moving forward because we know people are struggling and hurting, but we do know there are some folks that are using this time to better themselves as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Derek. I think you have done an outstanding job keeping us informed as business owners, and it's been a lot to embrace or try to wrap our heads around, at least. So thank you for the great effort.
Thank you.
Item number 9, is there any information anybody cares to share?
We do not have anything as far as staff.
Well, with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being on.
Thank you.